Hey, this is Jeff Deere of Deere Crossing Woodworks, and today we're going to show you a sharpening system that almost anybody can do very inexpensively at home. So, as you see behind me, there are a lot of different sharpening systems ranging from wet grinders to ceramic stones, water stones, Arkansas oil stones, motorized sharpening systems. This is a work sharp. They all do their job. They all work very well. But can get expensive, and the learning curve can be a little steep, and with a more expensive system you get kind of that I don't want to mess it up mentality. So what we're talking about today are sharpening films, or sandpaper basically, and there really isn't much that you need for a system like this, but I'm going to go through the process of putting it together and then using it. Alright, let's get started. Okay, what we have here is pretty much a melamine shelf board. This one happens to be about 12 inches wide and 48 inches or 4 feet long. I don't know what it cost me. It's been around. I've had this for many years. I think it was less than $12. The idea of this being melamine is that it is a pressboard material. This is 3/4 inches thick, and it has a plastic coating on it. So therefore, what that means is it's water resistant and it's pretty darn flat. Flat is what we're going for in this instance. So again, this one is 4 feet long. Now, the only reason for this size is because that would seem to work really well. And we're using a lot of different sandpapers of many different grits, and this board would hold them all at the same time and give us some room to spare. This isn't really meant to be portable. If you want to do this portably, I'd suggest using something along the lines of, I've got a piece of, this is acrylic, it happens to have the protective paper on, piece of plywood. Doesn't really have to be very big, because if you're going to make it portable, you're only using one piece at a time. Here's another piece of acrylic back here for something that we would keep in the shop. This is a piece of countertop material, laminate countertop material, just an offcut. This would work very well too. The idea behind this is that it's heavy and flat. Okay, so what we're looking at are, we're using sandpapers to do mainly our sharpening. So sandpaper comes in a number of different styles. As you can see, what's on this board already, there's many different colors: reds, yellows, grays, blacks. Doesn't matter too much. The difference is mainly the black is a silicon carbide paper, pretty much waterproof. The colored ones over here are an aluminum oxide paper. These are not as waterproof. They're made by different manufacturers, and this is what was available in these certain grits at that time. So that's what we're using today. The way we attach this is pretty much very simple. Sandpaper tends to come in full sheets or half sheets. Half sheet would be about this size, full sheet would be this size, and we just tear it 4 ways or in half, and I just use a 1/4 sheet for this exercise. So in this instance, I've pretty much attached all of these, and I've got one more to attach. So this is a 1/4 sheet of 80 grit Norton sandpaper. And I'm going to put it on right here, and I'll show you what we do. We use where'd it go? There it is. A spray adhesive, and I've got just my trash can down here. Spray the paper, get it covered completely, and then we're going to attach it to the board with the edge right at the edge of the board. I'll show you why that's important in just a second. Spraying it down. Attaching the paper and pressing it flat, and then using a marker I just write down what grit it happens to be. Okay, so the key to this whole system and what makes this work really well is that you start at whatever is appropriate as far as a roughness of grit for whatever edge or whatever tool you happen to be using. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But wherever you start, you want to then start progressing upwards in grit numbers, which actually is a smaller and finer grit size. And you don't want to skip a single one until you reach a polishing stage. So, what we have here, I have attached to the board is a quarter sheet of 80 grit, 100, 120, 150, 180, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, 1000, 1500, and 2000. Pretty much anything above 400 was kind of hard to find in a woodworking store or anything like that, or in your general hardware store, big box. Most of these, the 600, 800, 1000, 1500, 2000, those came from an auto body store, like not an auto body store, but auto parts store, such as AutoZone or Pet Boys or whatever it happens to be. That's what you can usually find there. And they're only usually available in silicon carbide, which is the waterproof, because we do wet sanding with those. And I'll show you more about how we can also use some of those in wet sanding purposes later. So, this is a pretty simple system. What we do is just, again, use spray adhesive to attach each of these to the board, and it's flush at the edge. The reason it's flush at the edge is when you have a tool or a knife, the knife has a ricasso on it. You want to get the ricasso right up against here so you can get the full width of the blade onto the sandpaper.